to another episode of On the Line. I'm Joe Mullings, and I'm here with Dave Renker in Los Angeles, and this is our spine show.
Yep. This is the NASS, National
North American
Spine Society. I've only been here
how many times?
20 times.
How many times? But you've always been on the other side of the fence.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the big ortho companies like Stryker. And so I'm excited about this show because there's so many dynamic situations going on right now that we can use as proxies for career decisions or career questions you may want to look at.
Yeah.
And so let's go through them. And the ones I want to explore is the Mazor acquisition by Medtronic. That's really interesting. The Stryker acquisition of K2M. And again, all these are pending, right?
Yeah.
So assuming, but still the dynamics stay the same. And then the integration of a high-tech product into, at best, a mid-tech market.
Yeah.
Right. So let's look at K2M and Stryker first, and then offer career direction on individuals. So what do you see as the overall sort of trajectory of that acquisition and things people should be thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd say it's a great acquisition for Stryker. You know, I think it's especially for the spine side. I think they need to do something. So I think it's just a perfect acquisition.
And relatively flat.
Yeah,
but spine in general is flat.
Spine in general is flat. You know, and so this is what's forcing a lot of these companies to make some deals. Mm-hmm. It is a precarious time for people who are involved in those deals because you have two businesses that are going to get mushed together, and there's going to be some tough decisions to be made on people, and so it creates an anxiety, and unfortunately, for most people, it's a sit back, wait and see, do your job, wait and see. You're talking about a very, very reputable company in Stryker, so they're, whatever happens, people will be protected. Right. But it's still, it's an anxious moment for these people.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, and a lot of people may not realize this, is when you get two publicly traded companies who announce an acquisition, they really, because of antitrust issues, can't necessarily start talking to each other until the deal's done.
Yeah. No, yeah, I've been through it. Believe me, with the Tyco U.S. Surgical thing, it's a weird time because your mind is saying we should be talking integration. We should be, talking about Salesforce alignment. And
you can't do any of that.
You can't do any of that, right? Because a deal's not a deal till it's a deal.
Right.
Till a deal's closed.
Right.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. And then you have culture. So you look at a K2M, and again, the attraction, not all the attraction, but some of the attraction there was speed to market, innovation in product line, and also facility, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've got all these things, and I'm sure K2M's like, let's get this going.
Yeah.
And Stryker's like, come on, bring it.
Yeah.
And I heard something today that was, again, not many things get lost on me, especially when it comes to employment and careers. And somebody said to me today, that was a really good deal for retention on Stryker side, meaning that if you're in a flat organization and maybe you're competitive in class, but maybe not best in class, bringing in a portfolio that are going to help you differentiate and fill gaps in markets you don't have will keep the people who were thinking about leaving potentially, especially on the sales side.
Especially on the sales side. And I think that's one of the things is everybody wants the best widget, right? It makes your sales job a lot easier. Yeah. And, for a surgeon, they want to be able, especially in spine, it's very, very relationship driven. But they want the best products they can have. I mean, again, they're surgeons. They have a lot of responsibility. They're doing very critical surgeries on patients, and they want the very best products, the most innovative products that save surgical time and cost, and then resurgeries. So having a rounded not only just a rounded portfolio, but a best-in-class portfolio really makes a difference.
Yeah. So I'm an engineer, or I'm a salesperson, or a marketing or clinical person. The announced intention of an acquisition goes on. It's not done yet. We've got to wait. What should I be thinking about? Some people have already got announced, not in this deal, we don't have details on it, but in a lot of cases, announced retention deals are on, assuming the acquisition goes through. What if I'm a person who didn't get pulled into the office and got told that I have a retention?
Yeah, I wouldn't read anything into it. I mean, honestly, I think there's, there's going to be retention deals wrapped around people that are critical to the business.
On both sides.
On both sides. But I don't think it necessarily means anything as far as your long-term tenure with the new company that goes forward. You can't just put retention bonus around every employee in both organizations. You go to those ones that are critical, and then there'll be decisions made after that. But again, I've got a lot of faith in Stryker. I mean, I spent a lot of time there, and they'll do the right thing. And there's a lot of thought that goes into the new co on where things are going to be, who's going to fill those roles, G&A, IT, systems, how does that all transpire? Who owns it? They're just normal things you think about in an integration. But again, I told people today, don't go do your job.
Right, don't think too far.
Don't think too far. There's not even a deal yet. Go do your job, and that's all you have.
Yeah. So let's move on to the Medtronic Mazor situation, right? So that one's super interesting to me. That's a favorite of mine because I'm a robotic freak.
Yeah.
Right. And so for those who aren't familiar, which I'd be really shocked because most of this is MedTech listening, Medtronic has a decent orthopedic product line. I'm going to be respectful there. And then Mazor has a robotic solution coming out of Israel, Caesarea. And Medtronic has been in there for a couple of years now as a distributor. What I'm finding fascinating, at least at the first step, is orthopedic, especially spine, at best, innovation has been super slow.
Yeah.
It's been iterative at best. And so now you're taking, in the history of time, you're taking a robot, which is software, electronics, imaging, navigation, all the things that have never even been put into a spinal ortho company in Medtronic. And so now you're mixing oil and water in regards to mindset, product development, timelines, et cetera. As a HR leader, does leadership think about that at a deep level a lot of times, or do they give it enough merit? And again, not on the Stryker side.
Yeah. I mean, you hope so.
Yeah.
You hope they do, and you hope they pick up all the boxes.
It's a hard gap to sort of cover, though.
Yeah. No, it definitely is, and it's something that is sounds so easy to do and think about, but you're just not sure. I think, and probably more than 100 times more than me on the robotic side is what's a good robot, right? What is, I'm sure there's a lot of companies that are developing what they think is is the best, right? But to me, it's like, great, you say you have a robot, but is it really tick all the boxes for the surgeons?
Yeah. Well, that's robotic performance is always interpretive. What's interesting about Medtronic bringing that robot in, and again, Medtronic needed a robotic platform.
Yeah.
In any of their portfolios.
Yeah.
From what I understand, their Einstein product is going to be delayed a lot more than maybe they're divulging right now.
Right.
So that's one thing. Two is Globus, who's on the landscape, has I'd say, and market says, maybe a best-in-class robot.
Yeah, saw the demo today. It was very interesting.
Yeah. And so here's what's interesting. You look at the Medtronic Mazor thing, and I hope for the industry and Medtronic themselves it goes super well. So I want everybody to know that I'm rooting for that. The waters raise all boats. You've got not just a robotic culture, Okay, so Medtronic never has had a robot, and now you've got an Israeli culture,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And any of us who have worked with our Israeli brothers in bringing a medical device to market knows that is also interesting to navigate.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really be interested to watch how that occurs, how software, hardware, firmware move in.
Yeah.
Now, examples, Globus did that exceptionally well, but footnote, the Globus robot, even though it was homegrown, took place up in Methuen, Massachusetts, away from Philly.
Yeah.
The Mako robot that Stryker acquired in 2013 came out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and stays down there.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the plan is on on Mazor, if Mazor is going to stay remote or they're going to try and roll that into corporate at all. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and my always advice is when you do deals like that and acquisitions is don't screw it up. And that sounds like an easy statement, right?
Right.
But if it's gonna cause pain to move it,
Yeah.
if it's perfectly fine where it is, leave it there.
Well, also, there's so much tribal knowledge when you build a robot. I've built enough surgical robotic companies
Yeah.
to know the value of tribal knowledge. And because you're talking about hardware, software, firmware, planning, clinical integration, workflow, it's a very, very complex platform, more so than a screw or a cage,
Absolutely.
right?
And that tribal knowledge. I mean, sure, you can move it to the US, right? But that knowledge, that first engineer, that first, how'd you do that, right?
Right.
Well,
Right.
let's talk to the person who actually figured that, the first one that figured that out.
Right. And managing those teams, I've watched more controls teams and more
Yeah.
software teams go sideways because it really is a chessboard and a mosaic and a sort of the sum is much greater than
Yeah.
all the parts on software, firmware, and planning and
Yeah.
robotics. So I'm really excited. And we've touched on this, we have to touch it here. This really brings an interesting conundrum out in the market. So now the top ortho players, Medtronic, right? J&J,
Zimmer.
Zimmer, and Stryker.
Yeah.
J&J needs a robot
Yep.
in general.
Yep.
I know they've got a lot of programs going on,
Yeah.
but I just think Mr. Gorski is going to say Medtronic has the Einstein platform, but now they have the Mazor platform. They have a robot in play. And all the things you learn in the robotic world, you don't learn until you have a robot. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
And so I think what's very, very interesting is what Globus does over the next 12 to 24 months.
Right.
Globus has got an amazing organization with an amazing implant line, with an amazing team. They're also were born out of the Synthase family, which is a J&J property now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my eye on that ball.
Well, Nuvasive too, right? Nuvasive. I mean, that's
Right.
they are, and again, I think very highly of them.
Yep.
It's just a matter of when. What are they going to do?
Right. J&J has a couple more $1 billion
Absolutely.
than Nuvasive
Yeah, they
does.
got a little bit more in the piggy bank.
Right. And
Yeah.
and when you're, I think the J&J shareholders are going to look at how are we incrementally going to grow and answer that gap over the next 3 years. Because to get an FDA-approved robot into your portfolio from scratch is probably close to $750 million to $1 billion, is what I've heard from experts.
And cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. And that's just if you make the regulatory
Yeah.
jump.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can, before Globus.
And really, let me stop you there. I mean,
Yeah.
cost is one thing, time is another, right?
Oh.
Time, because time is money, right?
Well, time is money. Yeah, time is money. The money you burn through, the misses,
Yeah.
and the time you give your competitors to get
Yeah.
a further
Well,
gap
the
on you.
regulatory pathway. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to watch my friends at Globus, and I cheer them on either way.
Yeah.
They do extraordinarily well either way, but I do think that it makes a very, very interesting proposition for Globus to become a potential high interest property for Johnson & Johnson.
Oh yeah.
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 And you know that landscape way better than I do, and your predictive skills have always been exceptional. So I won't touch that one, but no, why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it gets J&J officially into the surgical robotic platform earlier than maybe they planned on. But this happens in a lot of acquisitions, and we'll move on to after this. Every company has a what if scenario in their biz dev department. And if this happens, then this happens. If happens, then this happens. I think that domino drop by Medtronic, although they've been involved in Mazor, dropped that a lot quicker than I think people expected. And I also think that the other digital surgery, surgical robotic hopes of J&J and Medtronic are going to influence the potential acquisition earlier than expected or even wanted to in that Globus, Mazor, Medtronic, J&J world.
Yeah.
And again, these are my hallucinations. I don't have any extra data. These are the dots that I connect as I sit and lie in bed at night and stare at the ceiling.
Yeah.
I have nothing better to do.
Your hallucinations are right on par, probably, right?
Right. So all my friends there on both sides, J&J, Globus, Medtronic, and Mazor, have friends everywhere.
They're all fantastic companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, I want to ask what your opinion is, digging deeper into how do those cultures mix where I've been a implant company or a disposable company for, and again, I know that Stryker has vision systems and electronic systems, but when we sort of look at their ortho portfolio, as an example, how do they incorporate a robot, right, if they're in an acquisition? Or how does Medtronic incorporate a robot if it's an acquisition? Or let's just hallucinate J&J incorporates a robot. What do I need to think about on that, the two different types of mindsets? What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I wasn't there at Stryker when the Mako came on, but it seems like they've done, I'm sure they went through a lot of pain, right, and a lot of missteps, but it seems like they've
Because quality systems are different, product development lifetimes are different, supply chains different, vendors are different.
And we've talked about that, and that's that small, fast-paced, no roadblocks, no bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. Let's move quick. Mm-hmm. Coming into a bigger company, there's a lot of pains. There's a lot of, you can't do that anymore, right?
But that was our secret sauce.
That was your secret sauce, and it worked well.
Right.
But in a large company, there's
SOPs and
SOPs exactly, and you go to bed, dreaming about those things. But it's a tough road. It's tougher on the acquired company because they're not used to that, and it comes in and can create a lot of pain.
Yeah. And so how do you manage around that? So what decisions? Do you have a decision of I'm going to grin and bear it because I'm not going to change the big machine? No. I have to decide, is the big machine good for me?
Yeah. Well, the big machine will give it a time frame, right? If they're smart, again, it goes back to that don't screw it up thing, is, you do your deal, you integrate them, you make your decisions, you create your integration plans. And part of that plan, especially in a company like this, is from a quality system, let's get it integrated. Let's get the rest of it integrated first, right? Their products are approved and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll worry about integrating our quality system and, moving potentially manufacturing and things like that. But get the people side done first, then we'll layer over sort of the corporate stuff.
And it's interesting because I always over-index towards the individual.
Yeah.
And so now if I work at Bob's Implant Company, since we're in NASS mode, I'm going to keep it Bob's Implant Company. And my name is Sally Smith. I work at Bob's Implant Company. And, there's 500 people in Bob's Implant Company. And I'm not quite objectified yet because I'm one of 500.
Yeah.
And now I get acquired by an organization that has 8,000 people in it. And all I am now is a number. Really,
Yeah.
I am. I mean, I'd like to romantically believe I'm not.
Yeah, you're important.
Now
Yeah.
what I've done is become objectified. I'm just a number on the acquisition page. So now I'm out there a little bit, I feel like, by myself, because the acquiring company doesn't know me. Right. My supervisor, as expected, is worried about his or herself.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of just a number.
Yeah.
Should I chill? And again, not a perfect answer. Should I chill and wait it out? Should I drive my own career and not wait to see what happens? Because even if everything goes perfect, that integration takes 12 to 18 months before it even settles.
Yeah.
So my career could go on hold.
I think it's a fascinating discussion, and it's one I had, today with, a few different people, not necessarily with Stryker, but with some other things is, you chill, you relax, you do your job, but you keep an eye and an ear open, because we've talked about this, right? The company doesn't own your career, you own your career. And, you have to make decisions at that point that are good for you and your family. Especially if you have children, you're geographically limited. I think you just have to, again, do your job. Don't get crazy. Things will be fine. But these integrations take a while. If you have a retention or you don't have a retention, if it's a certain date, you just have to chill. But I personally, I'd be listening to someone from the Mullings group or someone from a couple other
Or
different
postings on LinkedIn.
what-
You need
whatever.
to have a couple
Yeah,
lines in the water.
you've got to take control
Right.
of your life and your career, and listen to what's out there. LinkedIn's a perfect example. Get your profile up to speed. Give people the opportunity to find you. But don't make a dumb decision either. Don't run away from something to something worse, right? Just be patient.
Yeah. And again, it'll be tough to go to your supervisor because he or she might not have an answer for you.
Right, exactly.
Right. And
Because they don't have an answer.
They don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Correct. Because again, that's where the individual becomes objectified. And
Yeah.
it's not the intention of the acquiring company to do that. It's just that they have to move into that batch mode
Yeah.
in order to get this big deal done.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they don't. I'm sure they would love to be able to be doing all of this action right now and relieving people of their attention. They just can't do it.
Yeah. So this NASS show has been great, not for a new product release, not for clinical data, but for career dynamics. I think this has been a fascinating event based on timing and high tech and mid-tech and big company and small company and speed to market and a little slower to market. This to me is what I sort of live for on career navigation.
This was, And, we talked this morning about what we expected, and I think this hit it on the mark, right? I mean, it was all about the what ifs and the deals and the no deals and, who's on their way, right?
And what deal is going to influence a future deal?
Exactly.
Which is just this
because
entire
it
thing's
does.
fascinating.
It speeds up that
That's right.
crap moment.
Staying up with the Joneses,
we
right?
need to get up with the Joneses. That's why these deals are being done.
Yeah. Well, one more day tomorrow at NASS and LA. Still traffic out there.
Yeah, there will be.
Make
That's
sure
not-
you
that's not going
make
away.
sure you get the B-roll on that traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I'm Joe Mullings, and this has been On the Line, and my co-host, Dave Renker. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, thank you very much. This was a fun one.
It was a fun one. Thanks.
Yeah.
Out.